Welcome to Channel Japan. I'm Mai Demizu.
And I'm Makiko Tsuda.
Every week, we bring you the freshest information out of Japan from our studio here in Tokyo.
From the economy to culture and even foods, if you want to find out what's happening in Japan right now, this is where you'll find it.
Well, these are topics for today.
In Executive Insight, an interview with the head of a company using the power of algae to help solve global food and environmental problems.
A report from an international forum on the future of Asia.
Companies and governments enlisting the creative minds of high school students.
And modern restaurant chains that are entering and stirring up the traditional world of Japanese soba noodles. Well, first up is Executive Insight. So, Utsuda-san, what's our topic today?
The company we'll be introducing this time is a health foods maker that was established in 2005. And let me show you something first. What do you think this is?
Something green. Maybe some kind of microorganism, perhaps.
Yes, you're right. We saw this when we were at school.
Yes.
It's actually a type of algae called Euglena, and it's only only 5/100th of a millimeter long, which is less than the thickness of a strand of hair.
Okay, well, I've learned about it in elementary school. Yes.
I remember doing that too. And Euglena actually has a very unusual biological characteristic. It's almost a combination of a plant and an animal.
Meaning?
Well, it means Euglena can store nutrition through photosynthesis like a plant, and it also can move on its own like an animal. So it's very rare among organisms.
So now that we know about what Euglena is, so what connection does it have with the company that we're going to introduce today?
Well, the company it's actually called Euglena. The name is Euglena, and it's betting its future on the application of this microorganism.
I see. So what kind of applications are there for something like Euglena?
Yes, it not only does it have both plant and animal characteristics, as like I mentioned earlier, but it also contains animal and plant nutrition. So it's said that a single Euglena has the nutrition of meat, fish, and vegetables. And we recently had a chance to speak with the company president called Mitsuru Izumo. So take a look.
Executive Insight. Jiyugaoka, Tokyo. With scores of restaurants and eateries and a laid-back atmosphere, it is a well-known corner of Tokyo. On a back street, a slightly unusual van colored in green. What is it selling? A grassy green drink.
It's tasty. The taste isn't bad.
This is my first time. It looks healthy.
Taking a closer look at how it's made, a green powder is poured into a bottle. Then condensed milk and regular milk are added. What exactly is this powder? It's Euglena, a microorganism. This is actually a drink containing Euglena.
In Japanese, it's called green bug. So customers naturally imagine creepy crawlers, and many drink it a bit fearfully. But once they try it, most say it's surprisingly tasty.
The drink is made by a provider of health supplements and food containing Euglena, such as cookies. Euglena is also the name of the company. The founder and president of this unique business is Mitsuru Izumo. He explains how he came up with the idea.
Why did you decide to make Euglena into a business?
In my first year of university, I went to Bangladesh. My first time out of Japan. I had a preconceived notion of developing countries, that they suffered from poverty, that people didn't have enough food to eat every day and were starving. But arriving there, I saw that there was plenty of food. At the same time, though, nutrition was extremely unbalanced.
Mr. Izumo realized that the problem was not hunger, but a lack of nutrition.
They weren't getting the necessary vitamins, animal protein, calcium, iron and minerals. Everyone seemed to be malnourished. Solving that problem requires foods rich in nutrition, and for that, Euglena is the most effective.
At university, he learned from a friend researching Euglena that it was rich in nutrition. He believed that Euglena might be the answer to the problem of malnutrition. And within a year of graduating, he set up a company with friends.
This contains quite a lot of Euglena, roughly 100 million.
It's a very beautiful green.
Mass cultivation is quite difficult. A lot of organisms get inside. Usually Euglena is eaten by them, so you don't get this beautiful green color.
They say cultivating Euglena on a mass scale is not easy. The high nutrition content makes it an attractive food for other microorganisms. To carry out mass cultivation, researchers studied ways to isolate Euglena. But other microorganisms would somehow find a way in, and no one was able to produce Euglena on a mass scale. So the company decided to try a different tactic. They developed a culturing liquid that kills organisms other than Euglena. With this, they succeeded in growing 1 billion of them in a month.
The ability to make a massive amount of Euglena, enough for other industries to use, is something that only we have. We're the only ones that succeeded in developing a mass cultivation technology.
And from that, they developed this powder. The company uses the powder to make and sell a variety of health foods and supplements. The main sales channel is their website. The number of regular customers and sales have steadily increased. But
I want people to know the truth about Euglena. There's almost nothing else that contains 59 types of both plant and animal nutrition. Once you try it, you'll want to continue using it. But unless we can get customers to try it, they won't understand. Compared to other products, it's a bit more difficult to get people to pick up Euglena and actually put it in their mouths.
the company's biggest challenge is getting people to know about Euglena. So they decided to go public on the stock market.
It's been a year and a half since your listing. How has business been during this time?
We feel we're standing on a completely different stage. Until now, many big companies interested in Euglena were skeptical about our business. But being publicly listed, we find that big companies are more willing to listen to and partner with us. There's a higher level of trust. We feel that going public gave us a good environment to move our business forward.
Less than a year and a half after listing its shares, the company entered a partnership with major retail chain Ito-Yokado. 150 of their branches nationwide now have a section for Euglena foods. On this shelf is a range of products developed in collaboration with various food makers. For example, a vegetable juice sold by Kagome. A 200 milliliter drink contains 300 milligrams of Euglena. And a snack launched by Calbee. This also has about 300 milligrams of the microorganism in powdered form. What do customers think?
I didn't know it was good for you. It's interesting.
この間テレビで
They said on TV that it tastes pretty good.
なんかやってたんで
A buyer for a major supermarket explains the reason for partnering with the company.
まあ他の流通さん
We have to differentiate ourselves from competitors.
まあそういうのは
So we need to offer original products.
っていうのを作らなきゃいけない健康っていう
The advantage for us is being able to introduce new products under the concept of healthy living.
Currently, about 9 types of Euglena-infused food products are on the market. The plan is to increase that number to 150 in 2 years. The company is also expanding into Bangladesh, where the idea for the business was born.
I understand you've set up a base in Bangladesh. What activities are you carrying out there?
In 2013, we set up our first overseas branch in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh.
This April, the company began using a part of its revenue for a project in Bangladesh to distribute Euglena-infused cookies to local children. Their aim is to solve the problem of child malnutrition, which was the original catalyst for the business. Mr. Izumo also hopes one day to turn Euglena Foods into a business in the country.
Bangladesh is a potentially huge market. Bangladesh is an Islamic country. There are 1.8 billion Muslims around the world. I believe Islamic countries will be the fastest growing market in the future. To provide Euglena to 1.8 billion people, we naturally have to develop products that are in line with Islamic law. The process is called halal, and we've already received halal certification for Euglena. We're planning to start off in Bangladesh and carry out research into other Islamic countries to see if they'll take to Euglena. We want to expand internationally with a focus on this market. Ultimately, we want to set up a factory in Bangladesh and run the business from there. This is something we hope to do as quickly as possible.
The company has also been working to commercialize uses for Euglena other than health foods. This green van used as a cafe. The fuel is actually
Euglena. It's a combination of regular gasoline and an oil made from Euglena.
They are also studying ways to manufacture fuel from Euglena. What's more,
This radio-controlled helicopter runs on Euglena.
Does it actually fly?
It really does. That's why it's here.
That would be a dream come true.
But a toy isn't enough. My goal is to be able to show people that the big planes they ride on actually run on something as small as Euglena. Making that come true is my job.
since 5 years ago, the company has been jointly researching Euglena-type fuels with airlines and oil distributors.
We want to offer it at a competitive price. For example, a liter of regular jet fuel sells for about $2. If Euglena biojet fuel is $200, then it's just not practical.
The company is targeting commercialization by 2020.
いやこれはですね
New domestically sourced energy is one of the dreams of Japan.
国産の
For a country with few resources, Euglena can become a major asset.
その切り札の一つに
We want to improve our technology
我々はその技術
and give back to society. That's our ultimate objective.
還元していかなきゃいけないと
Will Euglena become the answer to the world's environmental problems? Euglena the company continues to take on new challenges.
Sou uma pessoa comum. Eu gosto de apreciar todos os momentos do meu dia. Quanto isso pode me motivar? Como eu posso me manter focada? Tudo ao meu redor, incluindo os momentos do meu dia a dia, é o que eu preciso para me concentrar para a minha luta de 90 minutos. Quero dar esperança às pessoas. A better life, a better world.
Panasonic.
Mitsui & Company.
Asia, the engine of the global economy. Japan, a regional powerhouse. And now, direct from Japan, economic news with a global impact in Chinese, delivered by Nikkei. Read the future, lead the economy. Nikkei, Japan's leading media for business.
You're watching Channel Japan. Well, Utsuda-san, what do we have next?
Yes, next we have a report from an international conference held in Tokyo every year called The Future of Asia. And political and business leaders from across the region, including Singaporean Prime Minister and Prime Minister of Malaysia, were in attendance to discuss a range of issues such as sustainable development.
Well, I understand this forum is in its 20th year, and I agree, and you all agree, but there has been a massive change politically and economically this past 2 decades.
Yes, I do agree. And during this time, Asia experienced the currency crisis in the 1990s, the financial meltdown in 2008, and natural disasters such as typhoons, tsunamis, and earthquakes. And each time, the region has been able to recover to become a central player in the global economy. And at the conference this year, the focus was on the next 20 years for Asia in light of the current problems.
Well, countries across this region are becoming increasingly interlinked, but at the same time, a lot of problems seems to be cropping up.
Yes, you're right. And views were also exchanged on the coup d'etat in Thailand and the current dispute between China and Vietnam in the South China Sea. And I was also there and was able to speak with some of the participants, so take a look.
The Project Japan. Asia, home to 3.8 billion people. Nominal GDP of the entire region stands at $21 trillion. During the past 20 years, China and ASEAN nations have experienced rapid growth, giving rise to an expanding middle class. By 2050, Asia is forecast to account for half of global GDP.
During the 20 years since this conference was first held in 1995, Asia has emerged to become the center of growth for the global economy. This year's theme is Rising Asia, Messages for the Next 20 Years. We follow the focus of this year's discussions.
This year, many participants expressed a sense of crisis over incidents that threaten the stability of the region. Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong laid out two scenarios that drew the attention of the audience.
How will this major growth in China's influence and power affect its relations with other countries? One scenario is that Asia remains at peace, with countries working together to advance their shared interests, while competing peacefully with one another. In this good scenario, a more powerful China establishes itself as a status quo power, which adheres to international law and norms. It maintains constructive relations with other powers, while giving smaller countries the space to thrive. But if things do not work out right, we will be contemplating another, less benign scenario. US-China relations become fraught with tensions, pushed by a zero-sum view of the world and through a lack of mutual trust. China's influence, instead of being welcomed, is merely tolerated by other smaller countries in the region. Which comes to pass depends on two key factors. The first is US-China relations, and this is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. Another key factor influencing Asia's path is how nationalism develops.
Vietnam is locked in a dispute with China over territorial rights in the South China Sea. Ships of the two countries have been involved in collisions, heightening tensions. Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister Vu Doc Dam sought international understanding of the country's position.
The rise of many Asian economies over past decades was closely linked with a period of peace and stability. Vietnam strongly desires peace. We strongly protest against any infringement on our sovereignty. Taking this opportunity, I would like to extend Vietnam's sincere gratitude to countries, organizations, and individuals for the support for our legitimate position.
Sovereignty is very sacred for all nations, including Japan. Vietnam will protect its sovereignty and practice our right with respect for international law.
One of the founding members of this conference attended this year, Malaysia's former Prime Minister Mahathir bin Mohamad. The legendary politician has closely watched Asia's transformation over the years, and his view of the current situation and the challenges that lie ahead drew a lot of attention.
When the US keeps on wanting to have their presence here, including military presence, the US wants to be involved in our affairs completely. There should not be any organization in East Asia that does not include the US. This line of action is very distressful because it doesn't help us resolve anything.
What should China and Vietnam should do?
I think all governments should try not to instigate people into feeling resentment against a proposed enemy, because that limits the capacity for governments to negotiate peacefully.
To propel further growth, various economic partnerships are being promoted. In the Trans-Pacific Partnership talks, the US, Japan, and other member countries are engaged in heated negotiations.
In order to make Japan's reforms succeed, we must introduce novel catalysts and cause new chemical reactions to occur all around. One of those catalysts will be a further opening of the economy. We now have great expectations for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, or TPP. I believe that building markets that are both deep and wide, and dynamic markets that respect rules and the rule of law, is also incumbent upon Japan, which has a democracy and industries that are highly developed. I intend for us to introduce to the negotiations a momentum of an entirely new dimension from what has come until now.
New Zealand has welcomed the addition of Japan to the TPP. Trade Minister Tim Grosser, an expert on international trade, points out that industries at the center of debate may in fact enjoy the biggest opportunities.
The future of Japan agriculture does not lie in trying to compete on cost, but on quality and improving productivity. The future is in high quality, specialized agribusiness, appealing to the new generation of wealthy Asia consumers who are more concerned with quality and food safety than price, and Japan can offer them those characteristics. But to achieve this will require structural adjustment.
We want to ask you your view of how negotiations are going so far.
Well, I think the negotiations are going reasonably well. It's just that everybody who'd never done a negotiation thinks that they can be just done like that. I mean, these involve matters of not only enormous political sensitivity, but also technically complex negotiations. So it's a matter of being very patient and moving ahead. But I think we are maintaining some momentum.
Malaysia aims to enter into the ranks of industrialized nations by 2020. Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak welcomes economic cooperation, but also points out issues governments must overcome.
Malaysia looks forward to the completion of the Trans-Pacific Partnership on terms acceptable to us, as will the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. But for ordinary citizens, they can be less clear-cut. We must ensure that we take the people with us, explaining the process and describing the benefits more clearly. The growing gap between rich and poor in developed economies has become a pressing policy issue. We must invest more in public goods, such as education and health. It means strengthening social safety nets and deploying targeted subsidies that support the poor at the point of need.
ASEAN was established in 1967 with just 5 member countries. There are now 10. The ASEAN Economic Community is scheduled to be established by the end of 2015. Final discussions are being held on the key issues. What will the birth of the AEC, a massive economic zone, mean for the region?
The post-2015 vision should envisage a greater and more urgent focus on improving the living conditions of the more than 600 million people of ASEAN. And ASEAN economic integration through ASEAN Economic Community will not mean much to effort ASEAN citizens if it does not bring about a better life for them, their families, and their communities. Over the next 20 years, we expect the growing middle class and the younger population of ASEAN to be a strong force in dictating trends and consumption patterns.
Myanmar is considered the new frontier of Asia. Following the collapse of the military dictatorship, many countries have partially lifted economic sanctions. Measures are now being put in place to promote economic development.
Liberalize the economy and trade so as to ensure that the country can become developed and the population as a whole can contribute to development of Myanmar as a leading country within Southeast Asia. We have a long way to go, we know it. But the first step we have already been taken. By 2034, Myanmar will be a democracy.
The AEC will kick off in just a year and a half. How do experts on ASEAN affairs see the current situation?
Are Asian member states ready for AEC?
It is progressing steadily to the achievement of a more single market, and I think it would give another strength to the ASEAN economies. It provides a tremendous basis for having regional integration based on the ASEAN initiative, including Japan, China, Korea, and India.
The challenge is the non-tariff barriers. Because of the diversity in our economic development, some economies are reluctant to open up, particularly the big ones. So there's always these problems of non-tariff issues that member states have to go on continuing to discuss and try to find a way to get around.
Throughout the discussions, opinion varied among countries, but one thing that was agreed upon by many countries was that to achieve further economic growth, tensions must be overcome and the region must unite to find a path forward.
Mitsubishi Electric is helping to change the environment for the better around the world.
Green subway systems in India.
Green solar power systems in Singapore.
Sistem AC ramah lingkungan di Indonesia.
Eco changes for a greener tomorrow. Mitsubishi Electric.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do this? We make things like this possible through the power of chemistry. We're the Kaiteki Company, Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings.
SMBC Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation.
Sasuke, a new type of sports entertainment program conquering the world.
It's about human achievement and people's passions, and I think that relates to almost everybody.
From Japan to the world, Ninja Warrior, Tokyo Broadcasting System.
You're watching Channel Japan. Today we have a report from TV Tokyo's World Business Satellite. Otsuda-san, what's our topic today?
Yes, this time it's about high school students who are able to come up with ideas that adults would never come up with. So take a look.
Inside this facility, numerous specimens and rare insects are on display. It is run by students of the Biological Studies Department at Narita Seidio High School, which was formerly known as the Agricultural High School.
This fella's okay. You see, it's not scared, it's relaxed.
The insects which the students breed for research are exhibited to the public for free once a month. Attracting particular interest from the visitors are seemingly common ladybugs.
Your research is impressive.
These ladybugs have been specially designed to continuously eat aphids, which are considered pests.
It's not like sitting at a desk and learning from a textbook. It's study and practice. That's really important.
Ladybugs typically fly from place to place in search of food. But the ones here only walk around. A closer look shows that the wings have been glued down, preventing them from flying. Aphids are among one of the most destructive insect pests, sucking up vital liquids from plants. Located in Narita, where agriculture is a big industry, this biological studies department began researching ladybugs, a natural enemy of aphids, about 2 years ago, and came up with this method.
Ladybugs move around a lot, so we tried quite a lot of different methods to keep them in one place.
The solution they arrived at was this device. A net is attached to the nozzle of a vacuum cleaner, and the movement of the ladybugs slows because of the air pressure. Then a glue made from resins is dripped onto them. In this way, the wings become immobile, preventing them from flying. The process takes about 2 seconds each, making it possible to mass-produce these non-flying ladybugs. The team has filed a patent application for the method.
We want to get the patent and allow farmers across the country to freely use them.
Local farms have expressed interest in using non-flying ladybugs.
Every farm is looking for ways to grow produce without relying on chemical pesticides.
Masao Arai grows strawberries in the same city. He cooperated in testing out the non-flying ladybugs. He says he wants to meet the growing demand of consumers for pesticide-free produce. Using the strawberries harvested with the method, the students are making jam. They named it Ladybug Made Jam and even came up with a label. It went on sale at a farmer's market at Narita Airport at the end of May.
It makes me happy that my passion for insects and ladybugs helped in product development. And it tastes good too.
Product development ideas are increasingly being hatched by high school students. The Funabashi Ichiritsu High School, also known as Ichifuna, is famous in Japan for its soccer and baseball teams. During their practice break, the soccer players are all drinking a powdered sports drink called Ichifuna Athlete Water.
It's great during games. It has a refreshing aftertaste.
Ichifuna Athlete Water was developed by business class students. As a part of the curriculum, they learned about product development and package design from a sports drink maker and spent 1 year turning their idea into a commercial product.
This school is well known in Japan, so we see the potential for massive sales.
The taste is pear, unusual for a sports drink. Pears are a local specialty. The school's reputation for having top-ranked sports teams was a marketing boon, with 6,000 boxes sold at department stores and other retailers in the first 2 months, exceeding initial projections.
Before, it was enough to be able to use a computer and do some accounting. But now many companies want people who have practical skills. I started this class so that my students can get that kind of experience.
A growing number of high schools are starting to focus on education that will allow students to hit the ground running. National guidelines for high school business classes were revised for fiscal 2013 to include product development as a new curriculum. The aim is to nurture skills in product planning and development, as well as distribution.
It's not only about companies helping students develop skills. Many companies are surprised by the ideas and views of high school students and see potential business opportunities. A win-win relationship is developing between the two sides.
Companies aren't the only ones interested in the fresh ideas generated by high school students. Sabai Fukui Prefecture is known as the eyeglass town of Japan. A group of high school girls are visiting the local library. At a desk in one corner, they begin working on something. They are developing an application to let users know the availability of study desks in the library. These ultrasonic sensors allow people with smartphones to check if there are places to study from outside. The students are being assisted by an entrepreneurial venture.
If you come all the way to the library to study and find out that there aren't any desks, it's a complete waste of time. So this will allow you to check the availability from home.
April, Sabay City established what it calls the JK section, comprised of 13 high school girls as part of an initiative to involve more women in the local economy. JK is an abbreviation of the Japanese word for high school girls. Applications are the first step. There are also plans to develop local specialties and to produce events.
We want to make something related to eyeglasses.
One of the factors behind the city's decision to set up the JK section is the shrinking population. In Fukui Prefecture, 45% of high school students leave the area after graduation to pursue further education and find work.
Many high school girls want to move to Tokyo. I believe it's the same for local governments everywhere. How do we stop the outflow of women, especially young women? The big issue is making our region attractive enough so they don't want to leave.
Sabay's local revitalization efforts are starting to give rise to a fresh wind.
Adults tend to first set a goal and then try to figure out what, who, and when. We just want to move ahead without thinking about the destination.
Well, Utsuda-san, I felt a little bit sorry for the ladybug that couldn't fly.
I agree. But the glue is said to come off after a while and they're able to fly again, and apparently there's no damage to the wings from the heat.
Okay, hearing that, I felt that made me feel a little better. Yes.
That could be the case. And in fact, the use of ladybugs is actually spreading around the world. For example, the government in Tahiti, which learned of this method, is considering purchasing the technology for the cultivation of basil and mint leaves.
Well, that's good news to hear. Well, moving on to our next topic. Our next topic is soba noodles.
Yes, it is. And first I want to show you a picture over here. This is typical Japanese soba noodle picture, and they're made by grinding buckwheat seeds into a powder and mixing it with flour, egg whites, yam and water, with the dough cut into strips and boiled. And unlike ramen noodles, which originate in China, soba noodles were invented in Japan.
Well, many Japanese people eat soba quite regularly. There are soba shops all around, and I eat them pretty often too.
Me too. Well, our report this time looks at two restaurant chains, and one is setting up shops nationwide, offering high quality but mid-priced soba. And the other one, an Italian restaurant chain, is cooking up soba using high-end ingredients. So take a look.
Shinbashi, the watering hole of Tokyo office workers. 7 minutes on foot from the station, a new establishment opened in April. Kamo Soba Tsukata Farm. Inside, there are just 20 counter stools. The specialty here is duck soba. Soba, made of buckwheat from Yamagata Prefecture. A dipping broth with citrus. And fatty duck. They say when it's dipped in the broth, the juices seep out, enhancing the taste. The price is about $9.
For soba, it's quite expensive, but it was tasty.
The price is considered high because nearby there's Komoro Soba, a stand-and-eat noodle shop. At major noodle shop chains, it's not rare to see $2 cold soba. The average revenue per customer at Kamo Soba Tsukata Farm, meanwhile, is about $8. Over $10 is considered high-end, so they are in the mid-range of the market.
You have inexpensive stand-and-eat soba shops and really expensive chef-owned restaurants. There's almost no place where you can get reasonably priced good soba.
Boasting high-quality, mid-priced soba, they use domestically grown buckwheat and make the noodles fresh in the restaurant.
As we're under the Tsukata Farm restaurant brand, there's a reputation to maintain, so we have to operate responsibly and with pride.
Tsukata Farm Restaurants is an up-and-coming chain with 100 branches nationwide. By procuring chickens directly from farms in Miyazaki Prefecture, they have been able to offer high-quality fare at low cost. The buckwheat is also farm direct. Inside the store are pictures of their suppliers. Okura Village, Yamagata Prefecture. It's May, but snow still covers the ground. 2 people walk on a mountain path. Hisashi Yoneyama, president of AP Company, which operates Tsukata Farm, and Kazuyuki Kato, the soba farmer from the picture. Mr. Yoneyama won over the farmer by meeting him face-to-face and persuading him to become a supplier.
I've been farming for several decades in the smallest village in Yamagata Prefecture, so I wasn't sure what to make of his proposal. I believe it will be extremely meaningful if we can run a restaurant business by involving everyone, including farmers.
His aim is to turn soba into a brand by combining the primary, secondary, and tertiary industries of farming, processing, and distribution and sales. Next, he visits duck farmer Taro Shoji. The farmer is in the midst of introducing ducklings into the coop. Kamo Soba Tsukata Farm has teamed up with Mr. Shoji to produce its own duck meat. The first shipment is scheduled for October. They say that will mark the true opening of their soba chain.
Our own ducks and soba, they will be our killer contents. Through our business model, one branch will support one farm. The goal is 1,000 branches, 1,000 farms.
The company plans to expand the chain by applying a business model developed through their restaurant operations. Ginza, Tokyo. Another fast-growing restaurant chain is also on the move. Just a stone's throw from the station is Oreno Soba, opened in April. Every day at lunchtime, there's a long line of people. On top of 350 grams of soba are stewed beef rib meat, scallions, dried seaweed, and sesame. Their signature dish, Oreno Niku Soba, $5. The price is again mid-range.
The noodles are very firm and have a good texture.
The volume makes the price seem reasonable.
This shop is run by Oreno, a rapidly expanding restaurant operator best known for the Oreno Italian chain. By offering standing-only dining to speed up turnover, they've been able to offer dishes using high-priced ingredients. The chain has become popular for high-end but low-priced fare. The head chef of Oreno Soba is Japanese food specialist Koji Suenaga.
The nighttime menu is the essence of Oreno. We're planning to offer extremely affordable high-end dishes soon.
They put up flyers to advertise their nighttime menu to drum up interest. On a recent weekend, they held a taste testing of those dishes. Our cameras were allowed inside this crucial meeting. Company President Takashi Sakamoto, who oversees the entire menu. The top officials, including head chefs and sommelier of each branch, are also gathered. The candidate dishes for the nighttime menu are
egg custard with shark fin and soft-shelled turtle.
A steamed egg dish with shark fin and soft-shelled turtle meat.
Wagyu carpaccio.
Carpaccio of Japanese beef. There's also fried abalone and truffles. In a typical restaurant, ingredients account for about 30% of sales. But the average for Oreno Soba's nighttime menu is 60%. Oreno's motto is to splurge, so they encourage spending on costly ingredients.
A 79.3% cost ratio. Wonderful. You guys did well.
The dishes were created by Chef Suenaga. He shows off the skills he acquired while training under renowned Japanese chef Rokusaburo Michiba.
This is Michiba-style roast beef.
The roast beef named after his master is the definition of splurging. The cost ratio, 96.8%.
Are you really going with this name? It's no problem. I think your master would be happy. It's delicious. There's nothing to complain about.
Once the tasting is completed, it's time to make a decision.
I'm going to be honest. The fried abalone and truffles in its current form is no good. It seems a waste to deep fry it. The roast beef was the best I've ever had. I haven't seen so many dishes with a cost ratio of over 90% recently, so I'm thrilled.
The nighttime menu was introduced in May.
It's important not to be walled in by the normal concept of soba. It's about thinking freely. After all, we consider ourselves the best chefs in the world. That's why we're going to be #1 in soba as well.
Mr. Sakamoto also reveals another secret to their ability to splurge and deal with such a high cost ratio.
We make enough profit from our lunchtime menu, so we don't have to worry at all about cost. We can just spend and spend.
An up-and-coming restaurant chain that's changing the rules. But will they be able to dominate the soba scene?
Well, the phrase six-order industry was mentioned, and I think it's an interesting business model of involving all parties, including the buckwheat flour suppliers, so that everyone profits. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Channel Japan. We have much more for you, so don't forget to tune in next week.
Myanmar. Red. United. 세가의 조선. Passion, spirit.次のプレミアムフィールドへ。
The view is almost like peering down on the star-filled night sky at your feet. It's the city at night seen from a height of 450 meters. Make unforgettable memories. City lights stretching for as far as the eye can see. Find it at Tokyo Skytree.
Hey, look at this. They're building a huge steel plant with Gobelco technology.
Gobelco? Never heard of it.
It's Japanese. They can make iron with incredible speed. What once took 8 hours can be done in just 10 minutes.
Wow, the Japanese are incredible. The country of karate.
Ha! 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 Karate has nothing to do with it.
True. The talk of the world. Kobelco.
Channel Japan. Your source for the voices and views of people and businesses across Japan. The latest reports on Japanese companies, culture, and technology. Find out what's happening on the ground. Every week, direct from Tokyo, Channel Japan.